Hi everybody, Jane here. Thank you so much for watching today and welcome to everybody. Today I fancied starting from a place in a journal where there was text in the background, and quite often I would go to the Dina Wakley ledger journal for this, but I felt like I didn't want the sort of text style that's in the background of that one. I wanted something a little bit more typewriter style. So I decided to use the Dina Wakley watercolour journal instead and create my own background. So I'm starting off the journal pages this week by adding my own text background. So I'm starting with the Studio Light typewriter text stamp. I love this stamp. You will see it so often in my videos at the moment because it is at the moment one of my favourite stamps. It is a grungy stamp. It's got bits missing. So if you miss stamp, it doesn't matter. No one's going to know. It looks like it's part of the style. So if you get bits that aren't as dark, it's fine as well. So that's the first stamp I have used, and it's from the Studio Light Grunge collection. But then I wanted to add in some bits to make it a little bit industrial, a little bit sciencey. So these stamps are from the Lemon Creation set called Science I Don't Understand. Now, unfortunately, Asha no longer creates physical products to sell in her shop, but she does still have some digital things, so you can still check out her online shop for digital products. But this is one that I've had for a while, and I'm picking out some of the stamps that I hadn't actually really used very much. So like they've got little, I'm not very sciencey. Some are equations, some are like little diagrammy thingies like for chemistry, I guess. But I'm just choosing a mixture, and I'm doing all my stamping in black. I am using Archival jet black ink, and I'm using this because I know that at some point there's going to be some water-based type products going on top of this, and I do not want my lines to move. So that is why I'm using the Archival. The Archival is also a fairly fast drying ink, which is ideal for me because it means that I'm not going to be smudging it whilst I'm stamping the next bit. And then finally, I wanted something really bold on my background as well. So I'm using these stamps from Be Crafty, who are a company based in the UK, and they're big numbers. I think they were originally designed for creating numbers on cards, but I've never used them that way. I always use them as a fun background element because I just love the size of them. I love the boldness of them, and I love the way they just add something really visual to your pages. And I thought it went really well with the industrial / science / grungy / steampunk theme that I'm going for on this journal spread. Now I've took the clip off in the corner. I think I had the clip on at the start to hold the page down, but then I took it off to do the stamping, but I've stuck it back on. And then because I know I'm going to be putting some wet mediums on here, I do like to put some tape down the centre of these pages. It just is a journal that feels a little bit loose in the middle sometimes, and so I'm going in with this washi tape. Now this washi tape is from Aall and Create, and I do have the name of it because I did look it up. It's called Encrypt, and I will list all the products I've used in the description box below. I won't be adding links because links expire, companies shut, things go out of stock, and obviously people watch from all around the world, and I think it's much easier for you to check it out yourself. So I will list what I've used so you can look it up for yourself, but I won't be adding any links. So once I'd added that bit down the middle, I did feel that I needed to add a few little bits to the sides just to sort of tie it all in so it doesn't just look like I've stuck that down the middle. It looks like it's a part of the design of the page. And this washi tape is sort of got like, well, I felt it went with the page. It's got numbers and crosses, and I do add my Liquitex matte medium over the top. Then I wanted some stenciling. I wanted something textured, and this is an Aall and Create stencil. It's called Broken Circle, and I have a few different circles. I have a circle one that's a little bit similar from Lemon Creation, but this is one I don't tend to get out that often for some reason. So I grabbed this one and I'm adding just white texture paste from Pretty Gets Gritty, and you see there where sometimes the pages don't always align completely. A little bit did go on the previous page, but if you just wipe it off while it's still wet, then that's usually perfectly fine. And I'm not precious with my journals. They are for me a fun place to explore, a fun place to just, you know, use my materials, use my mediums, use my stamps, use all the things I have. And so I'm not worried if a little bit gets on another page. Now, I actually left that to dry for a good few days, not on purpose. It's just the way it worked out. So by the time I came back, it was thoroughly dry. I think usually texture paste, depending on the brand, you know, an hour, a couple of hours, but sometimes you can think that a texture paste is dry because it's dried on the top, but actually right through to the core it may still be a little bit damp, and if you start adding a lot of water like I do on this page, it can sort of soften up that texture paste and you might smudge it. So, you know, when in doubt, just leave it longer is what I would say, and just make sure that it is thoroughly dry. Now I'm just going in with some of the Qor watercolors from Golden. These are this little palette has come from the Bowerbird tin that I got for Christmas a couple of Christmases ago, and it was too heavy to use as a travel watercolor palette, and I liked the little ceramic bit, but I wasn't keen on it being in the metal tin. So a lovely viewer suggested to me, why don't you take the palette out and use it as a palette and then use the tin for something else? And that is exactly what I decided to do. I don't know why I couldn't have thought that myself, but for some reason, sometimes it takes somebody else to say something to you for you to realise what should be fairly obvious, I suppose. So this little palette with these Qor watercolors just sits on top of my desk, so it's always there. And it's quite handy now because it means that I see it and I use it. Now the Qor paints are fabulous. They are very flowy and they're highly pigmented, so you get this lovely vibrancy. But I was going for a sort of rusted metal kind of vibe. So I used, I think it was quinacridone and gold. It's probably something like a burnt sienna or similar, or an English red, I'm not sure, and probably a burnt umber, those sorts of colours. And then I wanted a tealy colour, but I didn't have a teal as such, so I mixed together some of the cobalt teal with, when I say teal, to me, that cobalt teal is turquoise. For me, a teal is more on the green leaning side. That to me is very blue. So I mixed in a bit of green with it to make it become more of what I consider to be a tealy colour that would go with that rusted look. And I'm just adding some drips as well to the top. That was quite fun, just to sort of really grunge up that background. This is really what I love creating, is these sort of rusty kind of patinaed effects. I just find them a lot of fun. So once that had dried, and I think I may have dried that with my heat tool, I wanted to add on some collage, and I've gone for the Maremi Collage books, and I've got images from the little personas and the bits and bobs. And I had already sort of planned out how I wanted this to be on the page, and then I'm just attaching them with my Liquitex matte medium. This is my glue of choice, but you know, whatever you use to glue things down, I would always say use what you have. You know, if you've got a glue stick and that's fine by you, just use that. If you've got PVA glue, use that. If you've got gel medium, use that. You know, whatever you've got, that's the best glue to use in my opinion. I like the matte medium from Liquitex. It's very fluid, and I can add it over the top as well to seal it in. And even though this background page was quite textured, it stuck perfectly fine. Now, often I will attach my images to some plain white thin cardstock to make them a little more substantial when I'm adding to a very textured background. And that is another way you can use the images, because it is like a copy paper sort of weight paper, I would say. But this worked perfectly fine. It all stuck well over the top of the texture. Even though it was pretty textured, it was fine, and hopefully it will stay that way. In fact, it's right next to me right now and I'm just having a feel, and it is fine. It stuck perfectly solidly to the pages. So I just added in my images and then sealed over the top with my matte medium to make sure they were perfectly stuck. Then I had that dry. I might have, again, I may have used my heat tool. Probably know me because I'm a little bit impatient. But I needed to add some grounding for my images. And so I'm going in with the Derwent Inktense pencil in the bark colour. This is an ideal colour if you don't want black because you feel it will be a bit too harsh, but you still want to add something that's got a bit of oomph, I would say, you know, something that's really is going to provide those shadows. So it's an ideal colour. Now, I did debate whether to use black because there is black in the background, but to be fair, the black in the background is slightly muted, so I felt that if I used black it would be too much. So I first of all started off with the grounding part because that's the bit that was the most important to me, and then I decided I would just add a little bit of shadowing around some of the images. So with the bit on the ground, I took the pencil straight to the page because I did want it to be quite intense and then watered it out. However, around the images, I don't like to add my pencil straight to the page. You can do that. You know, they are perfect. Like here, you can add your pencil straight to page and then water it out. But if you're wanting something maybe a little bit more subtle and you're a bit more concerned that you don't want to put down too much pencil, then I find for me the best way is to just take my brush and just take from the tip of the pencil, making sure not to add too much water. And I am taking it from the colour, not the wood, because I don't want to get that wood wet, because obviously, you know, wood and wetness is not a good combination and you'll end up with a pencil going a bit bleh. So trying to make sure that I only touch the paintbrush to the tip where the colour from the pencil is. So I add a bit to the edges, and then sometimes I'll take a bit of extra water and I'll just water it out to like soften the edges. But the thing I like to do is like I go in quite lightly to start with generally, because you can always, you know, build things up. You can always add another layer of colour. Once you've added it, put it down, you can water it out, but these do dry permanent, these Inktense pencils, once you've watered them out. So you've only got a limited amount of time to actually, you know, be playing with them. So finally, I did want to add a sentiment, and these, as you can see, are some of my favourite sentiment sheets. These are by Tim Holtz Ideaology, and they're label stickers, and this set is called Thoughts. I'm obviously very keen on these, if you can see how many I haven't got left. And I just decided that one simple sentiment at the bottom was all that was needed. I was debating whether I even needed a sentiment, but I do like a sentiment. It just, for me, it just finishes off my pages. That's my personal, you know, likes. Does that even make sense? My personal preference, that's the word. My personal preference for my pages is I do like to have a sentiment. So here's some close-ups, and at the end there'll also be some close-up photos, along with a list of my lovely super supporters who are my YouTube members, and I'll have information about that in the description box below. And thank you so much for watching. If you have enjoyed, do please give this video a thumbs up to show that you like it, and hit that hype button if you see it, because it doesn't cost anything and it helps YouTube know that it should be sending this video out to more people, hopefully. And if you haven't subscribed and you feel this is content that you would enjoy on a more regular basis, then do please hit that subscribe button as well. And until the next time, thank you ever so much for watching, and bye-bye.